Hey everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. We're so happy to have you here. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica, and we are the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla. And today we are going to talk about activities for auditory processing.
So today we're going to be talking about auditory processing. We're going to break it down a little bit to help you understand what exactly it is, what it looks like, and then we're going to share those 5 favorite auditory processing activities that you can implement into your daily routine.
When we talk about auditory processing today, we are not talking about how well you hear. We're talking about how your brain processes and interprets the things that you hear.
You might be familiar with Central Auditory Processing Disorder, or CAPD, and while we're not going to focus specifically on that diagnosis, we want you to be aware of it because it is important.
A child with CAPD really truly struggles to understand what they hear during everyday activities in the same way that other children do.
We are going to link some information about CAPD in the description below so you can check it out, but we're going to give you a couple of symptoms and signs that you can look for just in daily activities.
One of the signs of CAPD is trouble with spelling and specifically with phonic awareness.
They might struggle with mishearing sounds and different noises in their environment.
And noisy environments are going to be very, very overwhelming.
You might also notice that their behavior and just overall functioning improves within a quiet, less stimulating environment.
And then overall, conversations are going to be very hard for these children to follow. They might not fully hear and understand what someone else is saying, and then they're also going to struggle to process and come up with what they want to say in the conversation.
One of the challenges with testing for CAPD is that it generally requires a child to be at least 7 years old, and the way that the testing is completed is often done within a very quiet, non-distracting environment. And what we find challenging is that that environment doesn't mimic the child's everyday environment. So when they're getting tested in this quiet room and going through all of these tests, it's not giving us an accurate representation of how they're actually processing the auditory input within the school environment or on the playground or at home. So while it is important to go and get that further testing if you're concerned, just know that there are some other stipulations that we want you to be aware of as well.
Whether or not your child has CAPD or not, the activities that we're going to share here in just a minute work really well for children with this diagnosis and for children without a diagnosis.
Yes, so whether they have central auditory processing disorder, maybe they have auditory hypersensitivity, so they're extra sensitive to sounds in their environment, maybe they just struggle overall to process auditory information, we're going to have some fun with these activities.
Let's really quickly go over some signs of just general auditory processing and modulation challenges that we see in children without a CAPD diagnosis.
So the first thing is the child might be easily distracted or bothered by loud noises.
Yep, they might cry or attempt to escape the situation or just have an overall fight or flight response to loud or unexpected noises.
Even when you've ruled out hearing loss, the child might not consistently respond to their name, especially within like a competing background with noises in the background.
They might even make noises with their mouth just for the sake of making noise and hearing extra noise. They might be seeking that auditory input.
Now, this isn't an all-encompassing list by any means, but it just gives you an idea of some potential challenges. But if you're noticing any of these things and they are significantly impacting your child's ability to get through their day with ease, we highly recommend seeking out an occupational therapist, getting an evaluation, and just making sure that everything is working the way that it should.
Let's jump into our 5 favorite activities for auditory processing.
The first activity is using a metronome. If you've watched any of our videos, if you've listened to our podcast, you know we love the metronome. And so the beauty of using a metronome is you can grade it up and down depending on the child's level. And so one activity that we love is just doing simple auditory processing, clapping patterns. So this might look like sitting across from the child as the adult, completing simple rhythmic patterns to the beat of the metronome, clapping, tapping your legs, crossing your arms, just having them follow those auditory beats with the metronome.
And it's important to note that if your child has never completed an activity with a metronome, it is going to be challenging at first. So we recommend starting with the metronome at 60 beats per minute and just start with clapping on the beat until they can kind of get the hang of it. If this is very, very challenging, it can be something that you practice for 30 seconds a couple of times a day.
Multiple days per week as well. Don't just try it one day, realize that it's challenging. Maybe the child has a meltdown or they get really frustrated. Put it away and come back and try again the next day. We want to keep it positive. We want to keep it fun and just continue to practice.
We also like using the metronome as kind of like a hide and seek or Marco Polo type game. So you can put the metronome in a closet or hide it under something and have your child try to find it just by using that sound and by following the sound.
Yep. Another activity we love is Simon Says. And I know it sounds really silly to say, play Simon Says with your kiddo to work on auditory processing, but really you can modify it. You can make it easy. You can make it challenging. You can make it silly. We'll give you some ideas as well.
To start with, just keep it really, really simple and give one instruction at a time. So it might be something like, Rachel, lift your left arm in the air. And I do that a couple of times until she masters it. And then I'm going to start increasing the number of instructions. I'll say, Rachel, put your left hand on your head and touch your nose with your right hand. That was a lot of instructions. That was actually probably like three different auditory instructions. So just kind of experiment and play with it and just make it more challenging as your child masters each step.
Another activity similar to Simon Says is called Stop, Walk, Wiggle, Sit. We've talked about this before. It's super fun and easy to implement, but it definitely works on the auditory processing, the auditory working memory skills, because you are giving multiple instructions and they can be flipped as well.
The trick here is to make it fun and engaging. Children with auditory processing challenges are going to struggle with following multiple auditory instructions at a time. So the more fun it is, the more of a game it is, the less like work it seems.
Yep. And the last option here is red light, green light, but with motor movements. So you've all played red light, green light, but can we include some different activities like bear crawl or hop on one leg or do a crab walk when you're doing your red light, green light?
I was even thinking when you say red light, you can give an extra instruction of balance on one foot or red light, hold your leg up in the air, and just add that extra auditory instruction to make it a little bit more challenging.
Maybe before you go, you can assign the different colored lights with specific motor movements.
Ooh, you could even include like a yellow light, like we have the stoplights out on the street.
So every time you say red light, they have to stop and balance on their right foot, and they have to remember that instruction. Every time you say yellow light, they have to bear crawl until you say green light, and then they get to
probably hop like a rabbit.
There you go. Backwards.
Ooh, even trickier. So you can really make it your own. Another way to make these activities super fun is to let your child come up with some of the instructions. Number 3 is to play different auditory memory games, and we've broken it down for different age groups. So for younger children, we really love the sing-along songs like Wheels on the Bus, where you're going to do the action while you sing. What's another one?
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Oh, such a good one. Anytime you can include that movement into the auditory singing and learning, the more memory is going to be remembered. That didn't make sense. The more the child is going to remember.
Yes. For older children, we love the game, I'm going to grandma's house and I'm bringing an apple. And then Jessica, who's my partner, would say,
I'm going to grandma's house and I'm bringing an apple and a balloon.
And then I'm going to grandma's house and I'm bringing an apple and a balloon and a cat.
I'm going to grandma's house and I'm bringing an apple, a balloon, a cat, and a dog.
Classic.
Yeah.
So you can see we are working on those auditory memory skills, auditory processing skills as well to be able to recall what items our partner has said. And this is a fun one we like to do outside in group activities, on the trampoline. Even if you're not using words, you could use motor movements. So if you are going to grandma's house and maybe everyone is sitting on the trampoline. If you have a big trampoline, everyone's sitting out there, and I'm going to grandma's house and I'm going to do a seat drop. And so you do the motor movement on the trampoline, and then it continues in the same fashion with different motor movements.
Yep. If you are doing it with the alphabet, oftentimes children with auditory processing challenges struggle to recall the alphabet, especially when there's other components involved. So if you need to have the alphabet written on the wall to help with that memory component, or maybe even you're going to practice some handwriting with this, and so they're also writing down everything that they're bringing in alphabetical order, and just include those modifications so that the child can be successful.
Yep. Number 4 is identify the noise game. So we're going to have random items, random noise sounds, random things in our environment. And the adult, might snap a rubber band on the table. And the child is going to have their eyes closed, or they're not going to look, and they're going to try to identify what the sound was. And then to make it a little bit more challenging, they're going to try to imitate that sound with their mouth.
Make sure you switch roles so that the child gets to make the random noises and you have to guess what they are and imitate them as well.
Some examples you could try would be crumpling paper, making a mouth popping noise.
Like that.
You could
Stomp your feet.
stomp. You could scratch the table
Ooh,
or a chalkboard if you're feeling frisky.
don't like that.
So get creative, and then allow the child to be creative as well.
Number 5 is to play board games or card games that have auditory components. One of our favorites is Twister, because not only are you getting that movement component in, but you're having to follow multi-step auditory instructions.
There's a couple other Twister modifications that we love. One game is called Twister Moves, which is kind of like DDR, or Dance Dance Revolution,
Which is another great one.
Yes. And we just found Twister Blindfold. So that's a fun one as well. We take the vision away and we have to use our auditory and our tactile system.
Anytime that you can include multiple sensory systems, you're winning.
Another game we love is Bop It, kind of an old school one. Simon is another fun game.
All good memory games. Another good one would be Battleship. Some really good visual, spatial, and auditory memory in that one.
Another fun one is Guess Who?
So good.
And then a company we love called Super Duper Publications has auditory processing, auditory working memory activity card decks.
We will link all of these really fun games down in the description below so that you can check them out and start playing all these auditory games.
These are all games that we have played in the clinic with our occupational therapy clients, with the exception of Twister Blindfold. That is a new one that we have not found, but we are dying to try it out.
One quick note is that we also really love the listening program from Advanced Brain Technologies. It's perfect for children who struggle with auditory processing and modulation. We will link their website below so you can check it out, but they're a really, really amazing company.
Yes. That is it for our YouTube video today, all about auditory processing. We hope it was helpful. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you learned something as well.
We also want to remind you that if you are concerned about your child's auditory processing abilities, to seek out an occupational therapy evaluation. I think Rachel might have mentioned it earlier, but just wanted to send you a quick reminder on that.
Make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Harkla_family, as well as at All Things Sensory Podcast. That is where we hang out on the regular, and we'd love to see you there.
And definitely check out our podcast, All Things Sensory. We're on all free podcast platforms, and we do have several podcast episodes on auditory processing.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe here at our YouTube channel, and share the love if you loved this video.
All right, we will see you next week. Look at me trying to be interactive.
I know, I'm proud of you, and I'm just shutting it down. Cut, and then the music. Dun, 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 dun.